There are a lot of things when you have a small camper and you're trying to do things in a minimalist nature that can make your life a lot easier. Now, I've got a bunch of things that I picked up over the last 12 years, ways of doing things, and they're mostly refinements. Started out doing it one way, changed, sometimes changed again, and then finally settled on something that we seem to stick with because it seems to be the best way, at least that's available now. Some of these things may seem a little obvious, but they weren't obvious to me at the beginning, so maybe they wouldn't be obvious to everybody else either. They're simple things. I almost hate to talk about them, but maybe someone will get something out of them. First one has to do with having a really good fry pan. I know that sounds strange. This is a Calphalon fry pan. It's pretty darn good. It's got the thick bottom, the high-grade stainless steel. This is horrible for camping. I never ever bring it anymore. They're not easy to clean. And don't get me going about the cast iron stuff. Don't even bother. They're heavy, hard to manage. They do not clean well. You have to season them. Love cooking in them. I like cooking this too. In the house, this is the kind of stuff I use. But when you're camping, you don't want the hassle of having to clean all of this stuff, particularly if you have a camper without a sink and you keep your water in a jug, and maybe you have a saucepan or a dish pan rather that you put water in, a little bit of a Dawn, and you got to do some rinsing. So wouldn't it be great if you had something that cleaned up really good and didn't get much dirty to begin with? Well, we do that one way by trying not to cook with things that are really, really messy. And another way we do it is by getting something like this. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, yeah, I know that's the porcelain inside. It cleans good and everything. Yes, but there's a little bit more to it. This is one of the Walmart specials fry pans. They make them in various sizes. They're pretty cheap. These cost a few bucks. You can get something like this and the larger one like this for a little over $20. And I even use these in the house for certain things. In the morning, when I'm doing things like cooking eggs, I get this out and put the egg in. When it's done, it slides out, and what's left in here probably will just wipe out and you wouldn't even know it if you didn't wash it. Porcelain is pretty good. Fry pans are inexpensive, they clean up good, and they're so inexpensive that what you do is you buy them, and after a while, I don't know if you can see that, this one's starting to get a little scuffed, a little burnt. We've had this about 8 months. At the end of about a year, and when these things make it so the egg doesn't just slide out anymore, I just go to Walmart and get a couple more. I know that's wasteful. And I do keep the old ones to cook gnarly things that I know are going to stick. But you always have a new non-stick fry pan. And if you're camping, they clean really easily. It's worth it. Yeah, it doesn't have the thick copper bottom. They're pretty well made for the money though, but for like, what, $17 and $7? Or is this 11? I'll put the price up on the screen in a second. This is the way to go. While I'm in the camper, let's stick with the kitchen stuff. And this is not news to a lot of people, but I was recently on Facebook and people were showing their coffee makers. And they had electric Mr. Coffee types, you know, the drip coffee makers, or they had Mr. Coffee maker type devices that actually went on their stove and heated up underneath, and it boiled the water and it dripped through into the glass carafe. And I'm thinking, wow, why do that? As a matter of fact, we gave up our drip coffee maker about 4 years ago, and we have an electric percolator, which makes great coffee. If you remember if you're old enough to remember the Maxwell house, bum, 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 that's what it is. The water, coffee popping up through. Of course, there's one like this. And for those people who don't know what this is, it's not just coffee, cowboy coffee. Now, cowboy coffee, you put the coffee in, you put the water in, you let the thing boil, and you have coffee grounds in your coffee. No, this has a basket. And for you people who have used percolators before, I'm sorry about this tutorial, but not everybody's even seen one from the discussion I had on Facebook the other day. It's got a basket that you put on this stand. It's all stainless, and I suggest if you do get one, spring a little bit and get a stainless one. They have some that are aluminum, and they'll give the coffee a muddy flavor, and supposedly it's not good for you. Something to do with Alzheimer's. That's debatable, but what the heck, get the stainless one. Put the coffee in the basket. You put this top on. Some people also like to put a filter on the inside, but we don't bother. And then the whole thing goes down into the pot, and you put the cover on, and you set it to boil on the stove, whatever you have. With us, it's a Coleman. And after about 2, 3, 4 minutes, the water starts to boil. The coffee goes up through that metal tube, and you'll see it pop up into this glass knob up here. And it'll run down, and it'll keep going up the tube and down into the basket and dripping through the coffee. And you can get your coffee as rich as you want by leaving it a few more minutes. It'll just keep recycling it. So it's not one drip, it's multiple drips. Or you can use half the coffee and leave it going longer. And you still get the same coffee out of it by not putting as much in. Percolator. They were invented long ago, and at one time, before the Mr. Coffees, which I don't know when they came around, maybe 40 years ago, this is what you had. This was it. They worked good. To clean them, you just dump the basket out, you rinse the coffee pot out, and you don't have to worry about heating up some Mr. Coffee type device on your stove, or if you have a small camper, you might not have electricity. Now, here's a problem that I was able to solve so simply without having to do the recommended thing that you would normally do. When I bought this trailer, I had a pickup truck, and of course I would cross these safety chains over and hook them up under the truck so they'd be crossed over, you know, something like this, and hooked up on either side of the truck. And then I got a new truck. It was a Ford, and the connection was much further in. And of course, sometimes you'll have a long hitch, or you'll get a longer hitch, and it'll make it so that the chains really either aren't long enough or barely long enough. Now, I still hooked this up, and it worked, but if I wanted to disconnect the trailer and the truck were over to the side, one of these would be too short to get unhooked. And I wasn't able to cross them over, which legally you're supposed to do, so that if the hitch comes off, it drops it to that crotch, and it doesn't fall to the ground. So I rode like that a long time, and wasn't happy with it. And what I was going to have to do was get a new set of chains that were longer and remove the bolt up in here and put the chains on it, because when you get them, they usually come as one continuous loop of chains, and you put a bolt under here and screw it in. And I could have done that, and I was going to do it. And then I thought of something else. What I did was I got a new set of chains, which I would have had to do anyway. And instead of taking this one off and putting this on, what I did was I cut them in half. And this was much longer. It was a long chain, so I took a lot of chain off from this. So this was meant to re-bolt and replace this one. What I ended up doing instead was taking the existing chain and just clipping it into one of the chains from the cutoff one that I had. Now I have a chain that is much longer and a chain that I can shorten up or make even longer if I wanted, depending on which link I connect it with. And it's as easy as counting the number of links down so that you get them at the same length, and then just clipping this one into that one. So this can cross over and connect to the truck and not have any trouble with the length. In the last video I made, there were so many questions about this awning, something I didn't expect. It's so simple. It's made from a few things from Home Depot and a piece of cloth. And you need a screwdriver and a drill and someone who can sew a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take this down and I'm going to show it to you. This awning is made with 3 pieces of aluminum, this square stock, and 1 piece of aluminum pipe. And all of this comes from the aluminum section in a big box store for the metal. They sell the metal standing up. The part of this awning that goes up on the top of the camper in the back up there is a piece of square or U-channel, although you could use square. I just needed something small. And I've got a bolt through it. And the same thing on the other end. The front of the awning, the part that sticks out in the end, is a piece of aluminum pipe. And in the end, I've got a wooden plug that's sanded down from a broomstick. And there's a small screw right here that holds it in so it can't come out. And then there's a long bolt that goes through the end and holds this piece of square stock on. It's got that on both sides. And then went to the store and got a piece of sunbrella, which is really good awning material, but any good awning material will do. A lot of clothing, a lot of cloth stores have them. And cut a rectangular piece. My sister sews quite well. She sewed this up for me, and it's you know, it's all hemmed up. And then there's a pocket for that pipe to go through on this end, and another pocket for the square stock to go through on the other side. So let's put this up. I'm going to take this end and put it up on a hook up here, which I'll show you in a minute. And the other end on this side. And the small bolt that was going through the ends keeps it from sliding this way and sliding off the hooks. Then the next part is to take and put this up on a pin on this side and on this side. And there it is. It's up. When I take it down, I either store it under the mattress, or sometimes I'll just put it in here if I want to be quick about it. Doesn't take up much room. It's pretty nice. Let's take a look at the hardware that's on the camper. Up top right there is just a hook that I made from a piece of galvanized strapping. And I took one of the existing screws that was in the trailer and screwed it on. This was made from a piece of, this was flat with a pin in it. I found it at the one of the big box stores. I have no idea what it's for, but I creased it and then bent it, and it's perfect for doing this. If you couldn't find something like this, you could take a piece of flat stock, bend it, drill a hole and put a bolt through and put a nut on it. It would do the same thing, which is what I was going to do originally until I found this thing with a pin already built into it. I wonder what this is for. Something simple, can be made in an afternoon, and it really works good. TV. You can get a TV antenna and mount it on the roof screw into the roof, drill holes through the roof, and run the wire down inside to your television. Some of them are mounted permanently, some of them are permanent, but they have a thing inside to flip up. There's another alternative that's a lot less expensive. It's a hack, but it works really good. So, take a look. This is a TV antenna for a house. Not too big, works good. High def television antenna. This is an extension pole for painting or for putting a squeegee on to wash windows. Little label right there shows that. And it is quite long. This one happens to be 8 feet, but you can get from 12 and 16. My camper is 7 feet, now about 9 feet from the ground, so I just need about 7 feet to get above the camper. It has one of those things that you're all familiar with. You unscrew it, and it extends. Then you unscrew this part, and it extends, and then you tighten it up. And as you can see, I've mounted the antenna to the back just as if you had a pipe on your roof, and the antenna comes with a mount to mount it to a round object like this. And then on my camper, I have my tire mounted on the front, and I've welded a pipe onto it right here. But you know, you could just have a pipe. It's mounted with a bracket that they would sell to mount things to, square stock on a camper. And take the antenna, and I just put it into the pipe, and I have run a wire from the TV to the inside to this connector, and this press fits right on here and closes for travel. Now there's the antenna, and you can turn it in any direction you want to get the TV signal, whichever direction it's coming from. And it's got a kind of a press fit. It usually stays. If it's a little windy, I'll take with a bungee cord and I'll bungee it to the other pipe. Usually we don't need to do that. It stays in place. And the reception is quite good. But we are able to get pretty much all the stations that are available in the area. And at the end, unscrew it, put it down, and you could leave it on the camper, but I travel with it. I just roll it up and put it on the bed when we go. Inexpensive way to get a TV antenna onto your camper and have it work pretty good. Now, someone asked me the other day about a way to keep a door open when you have an awning like this that comes down. This bar is here because when you open a door like this, there's no way to keep it open, particularly if you're facing down a little bit this way. And it does have an awning latch here to hold it open when the door is wide open, when the canopy isn't up. But one way to do this is several ways actually. Put a bungee cord here. Some people have mounted some really long door locks from the other side that hang down and flip up and catch the door. Easy way. If you have an awning like this, you have a strap that hangs down in order to be able to put it up like a blind. What I do is I just take the strap, which you have to retract the blind with. I wrap it around this arm a couple of times, and then I wrap it around the handle like this, and the door stays open. Built in, it's always there. You don't have to look for any kind of cord or anything. It's on the awning as it is, and it holds good. Unlatch it, close the door. There's your strap, ready to put the awning back up. This series of things you can do to make your life easier on the road in a small camper is a part of our elegant minimalist sort of thing. Don't spend too much money, you get good results. It's things over the last 10 or 12 years of traveling that we found just work. And we end up getting rid of some of the other things that we've done. And this is what it's kind of filtered down to that we've kept. There are a lot of things like this that people discover. And in the comments below, share some for other people, but mostly for us, because we're interested. And to help the channel grow, please hit the like button below, because what it does, it instructs the YouTube algorithm to say, hey, some people are watching this, and when they do a search, ours will kind of filter more to the top, so that more people get to see it. And subscribe if you'd like to too. You'll get notified when we put our weird little videos on.